You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're listening to us on CBS Radio, WJFK 1580 AM, or you're visiting us at WMCLive.com for this and for any of our previous episodes. Look for WMC Live on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can now stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast worldwide, anytime, at iTunes. Well, we have quite a show this week. We're going to the movies, to the Oscars, and to Hollywood in general, and we are loudly asking, hello, where are the women? Addressing that question is our guest, a recidivist guest, she's been here before, the film researcher Stacy Smith, and also the documentary filmmaker Abigail Disney. Plus, my sister feminist co-conspirator and co-founder of the Women's Media Center, Jane Fonda, on her Oscar picks, and her hot-off-the-press, just birthed, well, that's a mixed metaphor, her new book. But first, we need to look inside the headlines. It's not as though New York State heard our recent program on solitary confinement and decided to act because they listened to women. But they did, in fact, listen to prisoners who brought a lawsuit via the New York Civil Liberties Union. And on February 19th, they announced that the state has agreed to sweeping reforms intended to curtail the use of solitary, including prohibiting its use in disciplining prisoners under age 18, including prohibiting state correction officials from imposing solitary confinement as a disciplinary measure for inmates who are pregnant, and also that the punishment would be limited to 30 days for those who are developmentally disabled. The agreement imposes so-called sentencing guidelines for prisoners, specifying the length of punishment allowed for different infractions, and for the first time, in all cases, a maximum length that such sentences may run. This is a great, well, it's not a leap forward, but a step. It's a step. And although several other states, including Colorado and Washington State, and even Mississippi, goddamn, had begun to look into how to reduce the use of solitary, and a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee is holding a hearing in the next weeks on this issue. Even so, given New York's size and visibility, and because New York now becomes the largest prison system in the country to prohibit the use of disciplinary confinement for minors, this gets special attention. And I love my state, I have to say. I mean, the state is at the vanguard of progressive thinking historically on a number of things. The first to do Social Security, the first, well, for quite a few things, and this is now another first. The agreement also calls for the creation of a new post of assistant commissioner and a separate research position to allow the Department of Corrections to oversee and monitor the disciplinary system statewide. And 16 and 17-year-old prisoners who are subjected to even the most restrictive form of confinement must be given at least 5 hours of outdoor exercise and programming outside their cells 5 days a week. So this is slightly more humane, actually more than slightly humane, more humane, and we're very glad to see it. And I wish we'd had something to do with it, but it never hurts to air the problem. And I hope they listened to Jennifer Parrish, who was our guest, talking about the way that solitary impacts particularly on women, which this also addresses. Hooray! You go, New York State. Well, on some things anyway. My first guest, Dr. Stacy Smith, returns to us. She is a member of the USC Annenberg faculty, where she is the director of a research-driven initiative on media, diversity, and social change. She also is an award-winning educator. Her students love her. Everybody loves her, and she has eye-opening research. Stacy, welcome back to Women's Media Center Live.
It's great to be here, Robin. It's fun to chime in and discuss on such an exciting week, Oscars week.
Oscars week, you got it. You are the academic presence with the facts and figures of where the women are, or rather aren't, behind the camera, in front of the camera. Your research, as I recall, focuses on 4 areas, but correct me if I'm wrong: content patterns on gender and race that are on screen, employment behind the camera, barriers and opportunities that women and other discriminated groups face on screen and behind the camera, and children's response to media portrayals of violence, gender, and hypersexuality.
Absolutely correct.
That my notes hold up. How about that?
Indeed, I'm impressed.
Well, is there new research? And there always is. And what's coming down the pike?
Well, for today's call, I thought I would run a number that I thought you might find interesting in light of the big gala event that will take place with the Academy Awards. And we know that there's a representational roadblock behind the camera for women in film. And if you look from 1977 to present day, Best Picture Academy Award nominated films, there's been 216 directors. Only 12 or 5.5% of the directors of Best Picture nominated films, 5.5%, have been women. And I think that really sets the tone of the problem that we see in terms of portrayal on screen and what's going on behind the camera. There simply aren't enough women in those key employment positions. Now, if we turn to issues of on-screen, what we see, and in lots of our research, whether it's looking at Academy Award-nominated films, or let's just focus on 2012, the top 100 grossing films from last year, only 28% of all speaking roles go to women and girls. We have a very low bar. All they have to do is say one word to be evaluated in our study, 28%, so less than a third. Less than a third of all narrators across the top 100 grossing films of 2012 were female, and only 6% of those 100 films featured gender balanced casts, or females in 45 to 55% of all speaking roles. And so clearly on that last measure, they really fail our MDSC test, our Media Diversity and Social Change test. They represent half of the population by half of the tickets, and only 6% of the films show a realistic portrayal of the world for girls and women. So that's really what we're talking about. We see these trends across many of the commercial films that we analyze.
Yeah. It's shocking. It's just appalling in 2014 that this is still the case. And movies, which are one of our major, perhaps the major export of this country culturally, have such an impact on the whole world, and certainly here at home. I mean, you know the phrase, if you can't be it if you can't see it.
Indeed,
so if you're seeing a skewed portrayal that you're either only sexualized, or you're hypersexualized, or you're not even there at all. You're just vanished. How do you place yourself in the world?
Robin, I think that's a great statement, question, query that we should be asking. Olivia Wilde just asked some really provocative questions, or made some provocative statements the other day online, and I think it's really fitting that we have to think about what happens on screen when a woman is behind the camera. And if you kind of step back with our research, we see 3 really interesting trends. When a woman is directing, there's more females on screen. Those females have a tendency to be less sexualized than when there's a man behind the camera. And our work with the Sundance Institute and Women in Film Los Angeles shows that women are hiring and putting other women behind the camera in other key creative positions like producer, writer, cinematographer, or editors.
Wow.
So we see a shift when women are behind the camera, and so we need to start asking about how do we ramp up and provide those opportunities to women, or remove the roadblocks that currently exist to getting them the jobs that they need, so that the stories can reflect the demography of the world in which we live.
Yeah, that's you got it. That's it in a nutshell. I know that there's one initiative of some women philanthropists who are getting together to focus their funds on being backers for films by women, because I think it was you who pointed out that the reason women are making headway in documentaries as directors, as producers, much more than in feature films, is because of budget. Feature films cost more, and people don't want to trust a woman with their money.
Yeah, and I think multiple studies now show that. We have a study that reveals that, and other centers' findings have revealed that as well. And I think that we see more democratized funding practices in the documentary realm than we see in the narrative realm. Right. And, individuals like Jackie Zehner, the efforts of Women Move Millions, Geraldine Dreyfus, the Game Changer Fund, Chicken and Egg, the list is starting to grow of female financiers and people interested in storytelling coming together and making a difference in this arena. So I think that there are bright lights ahead that we're moving to, but more effort really needs to be put into the narrative arena and getting women commercial work. That's it, getting them action films, getting them visual effects jobs that really illuminate some of these biases about hiring practices surrounding women as directors. They need to be addressed so that women can get in those roles, get those jobs, and have the type of careers that their male counterparts have.
Yes. And some of the bigger names, male as well as female, if they're sympathetic, of actors, could demand this as well.
Absolutely.
In solidarity.
Yeah, and we found something really interesting in our latest Sundance study. We sat down with 34 industry leaders and filmmakers, and we asked them, what are the attributes that make a successful director? And what was interesting, by far, most people mention neutral attributes, but by a factor of 2 to 1, these thought leaders illuminated that the job of director was more consonant with masculine attributes than feminine attributes. This was only in the narrative arena. So what do I mean by that? If you ask, okay, so what are successful attributes of directors? Being aggressive, being assertive, acting like a general, right? These were mentioned twice as frequently than things like being understanding or compassionate or, emotionally involving. These are attributes that might pull more female. What was fascinating, so what this illuminates, first off, is that when people think director in the narrative arena, they think male. Yeah. And this is very, very consistent with a lot of the management leadership research that's already been conducted. The fascinating thing is that when we look to documentaries, that difference disappeared.
What do you know?
So it's not only more democratized funding in documentaries, it's also more democratized thinking. And we need to see this shift in the narrative or the dramatic arena.
We definitely do, because I think it comes from the original sexism of assuming a director, because it's a position of authority, is male, and then picking up the male characteristics to go with it. Because the truth is, the director's job is as much a great director, nurturing, and parental or motherly or, as anything else. And in the many dim dawns of time, back when I was a working kid actor, the directors that came out of the golden age of television, Sidney Lumet being one, were absolute sweethearts. They had 2 things which women have all the time: great attention to detail and a really nurturing attitude toward actors. So I would say that a great director has womanly characteristics, and therefore, obviously, it's something that women have to take over.
Exactly. And we see these implicit biases affecting other aspects of decision making as well. So not only with these jobs are people thinking male when they think director in terms of who might possibly be able to be put on one of the studio lists or the agency lists for hiring, for consideration of hiring, but that we also heard from some of the industry leaders and filmmakers that we interviewed last year that they just simply think there's a small pool of female directors to hire. A lot of people think of Bigelow or Hardwick or Nancy Myers, but stepping back, and this is why I think the research is so important, if you look at Sundance from 2002 to 2013, there are over 100 female directors attached to films across that 12-year span.
Hooray.
So, exactly. So that when we hear that there's a small pool, the industry should be crying fiction because that's not consistent with what we know empirically.
Well, it's the old shibboleth of we can't find any. We would, but we can't find any qualified. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where the data becomes really important. There's a lot of qualified women and men to helm motion pictures, and they should equally be given consideration. And, we've written about this a bit with the NFL. They tackled this with the Rooney Rule. Maybe there needs to be a Rooney Rule for motion picture content, making sure that those lists feature women and people of color when they're considering who to hire for or who to attach as a director to a motion picture. It's worked in the NFL. It's had some ebbs and flows of how pronounced the impact has been. But by and large, I think we need to think more creatively about how to deal with this representational roadblock behind the camera.
It's a wonderful idea. And your research is so valuable and so important. Thank you for it, Stacy. We've got to go, but thank you for all the work that you do and for sharing it with us, and keep up the brilliant work.
Thanks, Robin.
We have to take a short break here on Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and when we return, we'll look at documentaries, because if that is the one area where women seem to be making headway, we better speak with a documentarian, and so we will. Producer Abby Disney.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
Welcome back. Abigail Disney is a filmmaker, a philanthropist, and an activist. Her very first film, the acclaimed and award-winning Pray the Devil Back to Hell, told the story of the Liberian women who came together to end that country's brutal civil war and bring peace to the nation. It won Best Documentary at the 2008 Tribeca Film Festival. It's been viewed across the country and, in fact, the world. She also produced a 5-part film series for PBS, Women, War, and Peace, and we're going to talk about what she's doing now and next. Welcome, Abby, to Women's Media Center Live.
It's good to be here.
Well, you are one of our girls in documentary land, one of our best girls in documentary land, not only with the history of Pray the Devil Back to Hell, which won so many awards, and but with the 5-part film series for PBS on Women, War, and Peace, with a new film in the broiler that I hope we'll talk about. It seems that women are taking over documentaries, in part, I gather, because they're lower budgeted and it's hard for women to raise money for the major feature film area, but in part because we have so much to say. Am I wrong?
I think those are both absolutely on point. I mean, what I find is that documentary land is a nicer place than feature land. People are in it for all the right reasons because they really have something to say, and they're not out to slash each other's throats in the middle of the night. So It does tend to attract women because there's less money involved, so fewer people to prevent them from doing what they want to do. And yeah, they have a lot to say, not just about women, although that's really important, but as you know, in every social issue, women tend to dominate in activism and in expression. So yeah, the landscape is covered with women.
Well, and you and the mother of this program, Regina Scully, are two of the feminist pillars in the women's documentary community as producers, and talk about the venues for documentary films. It's theaters, it's television, it's public television a lot.
Right.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because the places to get your films out are proliferating rather than decreasing, and that's really good news. And for a documentary filmmaker, you have to monetize what you made, or you can't live to fight another day. And the big monetizer is television. There's the cable channels, which are inclined to choose things that are a little on the, sexy side, not literally, but figuratively.
Yeah.
So if you've got an important social issue film and you really, really want to get it into public schools and you really, really want to reach audiences in places where they're not already agreeing with you, in affluent places that can afford cable, then the place to be is PBS. Which is where you get into every nook and cranny of the United States, every living room in America. So there's a real opportunity to both monetize and reach millions of people as opposed to thousands that way.
And that's what the 5-part film series on Women, War, and Peace did.
Absolutely. I just got a letter from a guy that I'm pursuing for an interview about guns. And he's a big right-wing Second Amendment activist in the middle of rural Illinois. And he got back to me right away because he said he was a big fan of Women, War, and Peace.
Wow.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a happy upsetting of one's expectations.
Yes, exactly.
This is going to be your first foray as a director, right? In the film on gun culture.
Yes, this is my first foray as a director. It's terrifying and wonderful all at the same time.
And
pretty exciting.
This is a feature-length doc.
Feature-length documentary. And I'm really only looking at gun culture, not at gun violence. Really, I'm looking at the ways in which I don't understand why it aligns with conservative policy, because it doesn't strike me as a conservative agenda. It strikes me as a radical agenda.
I can't wait to see this film. And talk a little bit also about the awakening, or as I tend to think of it, the reawakening on women in Arab culture and the Arab uprising. This is a huge and amazing project that you're doing. Right.
It's so exciting. It's basically, we're going to cover the way the Arab Spring looked, first of all, through a woman's eyes in Tunisia and Egypt and Libya. So, they were proto-movements because, we know as activists, these awakenings or uprisings or whatever you want to call them, they don't happen out of nowhere. There's always the groundwork that nobody heard about that was being laid for years before, and the women were right at the front of those proto-movements.
Always.
That culminated in the uprisings that we call the Arab Spring. And in the days since then, truth be told, how close or not close these post-uprising cultures are to democracy is very much dependent on where women fit in those pre-uprising societies, where they fit in the post-uprising society,
Absolutely.
And how seriously everyone is taking women's equal rights and dignity.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. So the film tracks that.
Yeah, and so it's the best proof of concept that I've ever seen is the contrast between Tunisia and Egypt right in this moment, because women have always been much more active and serious, less frequently assaulted in Tunisia, and Tunisia is right now very close to a Islamic government and a new constitution, whereas Egypt is in absolute turmoil and no one knows what's going to happen next.
That's right. And Tunisia was even earlier.
Yeah, Tunisia was the first.
But women had laid the foundation with civil society there.
Exactly, and right at the center of labor movements in Tunisia.
And that's right. And awakening is what is the projected schedule on Awakening?
We're probably going to be on the air in spring 2015 as part of the Women and Girls Lead group of programs that IPTVS brilliantly got started about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So we're about a little over a year out from that being finished.
And this is covering a number of countries, too.
It's covering 3 countries. Well, you know what, we're thinking of it as a multi-platform media effort anchored by a documentary film, because, it's never just about the film anymore.
Right.
There's all this opportunity on the web. So we're going to be covering 3 countries in the film, and then we're going to be covering many, many, many more stories on the internet in a web-based application. So we're really excited about that, because that gives us a chance to keep the stories alive and growing and get into schools and get into wonderful places.
That's so exciting, Abby. And say a few words about the foundation that you started in partnership with Lema Bowie, the Bowie Peace Foundation. Many of us feel that she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011, which God knows she deserved, in no small part because of your film Pray the Devil Back to Hell, in which she played a prominent part.
Lema and I were, sisters, from the beginning. We've always been very close from the second we connected. And the morning she won the prize, we just looked at each other and said, well, this is interesting. What does this mean for your work, and what do you want to do in the future? How do you want to play this, and how can you make this expand on what you're talking about? So we right away started setting up a structure here in the United States that would be a sort of friend of Lema Bowie kind of foundation, where she could raise money here in the United States legally. And then the money could go in not only in support of the work she does in Liberia on girls and women's education, which is where her heart is, but also around the world. She's absolutely a stunning figure to get off of an airplane with in a place like Sri Lanka or Myanmar. And I've been to both places with her. She just absolutely is a figure of incredible admiration, and she's always very concrete about peace movements, about how women should organize and so forth. And so she goes around the world working with women's organizations and kind of giving them some strategic thinking and help as they're building their women's movements inside these different countries. So this is all in support of all this work she does, both in Liberia and around the world.
And you're in partnership with her on the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in one of your 16 other lives, you're also a philanthropist.
Yeah, way more than any cat ever had.
As well as an activist, as well as a filmmaker. What would we do without you? I'm so glad we're on the same side. God, I wouldn't want to be on the other side from you. I feel
the same way about you, Robin.
Thank you, Abby. The patriarchy is doomed. It's just doomed. Thank you, my dear, for everything that you do every day, all the time, and also for being with us here on the program.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I say the same right back to you, Robin.
And now it's time for the Surrealism Corner. I only recently discovered that there's a film named Citizen Saint, which is up on YouTube, which was made early in the 1940s, Catholic Church-sponsored film on the life of Sister, or later on Mother, Frances Cabrini, who was the first American Catholic canonized as a saint. Therefore, Citizen Saint. And this was a Catholic, not only approved, but created and produced movie about her life, starting with her childhood as very, very young in a little village in Italy when she wanted to grow up and be a missionary. Well, to make matters surreal, the child saint is played by moi. It's very early footage. I think I must have been 4 or 5 years old. And a neighbor boy comes by and upsets my little paper boats filled with violets, which are my boats taking missionaries to help the poor souls off somewhere. And he says, girls don't travel. Honest, I'm not making this up. And she says back to him, boys have no imagination. So you can imagine my feelings on discovering that, number one, I had been in a film, my one movie, and this is movie week, my one movie, which was Citizen Saint, made very young. Fortunately, all my other work was done on the East Coast, and we never moved to Hollywood, probably why I'm vertical today, not an addict, not on my 15th husband, and not in jail or in rehab. Merely at the Women's Media Center and being a writer. That's quite sufficient. But the sight of this tiny tot, very professional already, saying her lines, which include boys have no imagination, in a film sponsored by the Catholic Church, you can imagine the ironies. So I'm sharing that with you as a personal piece of surrealism in Where Else? The Surrealism Corner. It's time for another quick break. I'm Robin Morgan, and this is Women's Media Center Live. And just around the corner of this break waits Jane Fonda, in town in this cold New York winter, but bringing a lot of warmth with her. In just a minute. Don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
And we're back. And Jane Fonda is back too. And I'm not going to waste time on that introduction. You know who she is. So let's get to it. Welcome back, Jane.
Hi, Robin.
Oh, it's so good to have you back.
I wish I could say it's good. What?
It's good to have you back.
Well, it's good to be back with you. It's kind of cold here, though.
Yeah, well, you're a Californian at heart anyway. Anyway, we have a new book from you, yes?
We do, yes. I've been working on it it's called Being a Teen, and I've been working on it for almost 4 years. And it's everything I would have wanted to know when I was a teen and didn't know where to go to get answers to, from how does my body work, to how do I know if I'm in a real relationship, to what about bullying. Of course, there was no cyberbullying back there, but I do talk about cyberbullying. And it's got a chapter on sexual orientation that I think is the best I've ever read.
Wow.
Very complete and wonderful. And the media and our relationship to it, the media plays such a role in how we all, but especially teens, to feel about themselves, because teens are at that formative time when media can have such an impact. So, would there was a revolution and we could change the media? Yeah. We're trying, right, with the Women's Media Center.
We are
trying. But in the meantime, you can inoculate adolescents against the effects of the media by politicizing it.
That's right. By
making them look at it from a political perspective and stand back and analyze it and what it's doing to you and why. And it sort of makes them a little bit more immune.
This is fantastic. What propelled this? Was this your work with GCAP, by the way? Is
right.
Wait, let's explain GCAP. GCAP is Jane's NGO, and she established it years ago, and it's Georgia Campaign
for Adolescent Potential and Power.
Aha. It changed. Then originally it was adolescent pregnancy. Aha.
That's right. We for 17 years we focused on adolescent pregnancy, which Georgia was the number one in the country. And of course there's many problems associated with it. It's the generational transfer of poverty, for one thing,
yep,
in a state that on average tends to be poor, and costs the state a lot of money, makes it difficult for kids to, take advantage of opportunities if they should come their way. And then we dropped by 50% in terms of adolescent pregnancy, and we continue to work on that and bringing proven programs, scientifically proven,
Right.
evaluated and proven programs into different counties around the state, focusing on pregnancy prevention and reproductive health, and we've expanded to include physical fitness. It's very high on obesity, child obesity in Georgia, and healthy relationships.
And did all that work? Was that what this book grew out of?
Well, it grew out of it. I mean, most immediately, yes. There were a number of women on my board 5 years ago. I mean, there still are who had children that were entering adolescence, and they said, "Help!
Yeah.
What's the best way to answer these questions?" And
God knows there's a need for such a book.
Yeah. I mean, people don't have any idea how much need there is, especially among disadvantaged kids who, who still think that if they have sex and stand up, they won't get pregnant, and who don't know what a relationship is, a good relationship is supposed to feel like and look like, and think that they can't say no because then they'll be unpopular and have terrible self-images and so forth, and have nowhere to go. Which gets me to the original impetus, which is that I had a really tough adolescence, even though I'm white and privileged.
Yeah.
My mother died when I was 12, and I didn't know. I didn't get my period till I was 17, and I thought I was supposed to be a boy. And I mean, I didn't. I'd sit in a chair and take a mirror and try to figure out what was going on down there, and I hadn't a clue. And I was really scared. And then I ran a children's camp in California for 15 years with my then husband, Tom Hayden.
I remember.
And all of this, really, I developed a soft spot in my heart for adolescents. It's easy to love kids. They're cuddly and they don't talk back, but adolescents get prickly and you feel like they know everything. I remember seeing a bumper sticker once that said, "Quick, hire an adolescent while they still know everything." Yeah. And you feel like an old fogey as a parent when you're trying to talk to an adolescent, but the fact is that they do listen, even though they pretend not to, and they need answers.
Sure.
And
they want answers.
They want answers.
Yeah.
And one of the biggies for girls is how do I know if it's a real relationship? So I spend a lot of time talking about the importance of being able to communicate with somebody. If you don't feel safe and there's no trust and you can't communicate about everything, but including what you like sexually, what you don't like, whether you can say no, knowing you have agency, and safe sex, demanding that you have dual purpose safe sex. In other words, to prevent yourself both from pregnancy and from sexually transmitted infections. And I've given the book to experts around the country and to a lot of adolescents, and all the feedback coming back is, wow, this is really good. This is it's forthright. It's frank, but it's also, parents won't mind getting it for their kids. And it's a dip-in book. You can start at any point in the book and just read what you want to read.
This is very good.
Set it aside.
This is very good. Do you know about I'm sure you probably do, about mid-January, the National Bureau of Economic Research released this paper that made the case that the controversial but very popular MTV programs that actually did reduce the teenage birth rate by nearly 6%. The ones called 16 and Pregnant, which show, they're reality shows. And of course, the right wing attacked them and said it was glamorizing teen pregnancy, when actually it shows what hard work it is, how difficult it, and the kids watch it and they think, that and books like this will make a real difference. Say again its name and when's it coming out?
It's called Being a Teen. Yeah. It's published by Random House, and it's coming out March 3rd.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you, Robin.
You are becoming more and more a writer. I love it. You're working on a novel, too. We won't talk a lot.
I'm writing I'm writing my first novel, and it's a whole different part of the brain than nonfiction.
Yeah.
It's really, I keep forgetting I'm in charge. If I want to reduce her age by 40 years, I can just do it.
That's right. Do you dream the characters yet?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I dream the characters, and I dream. I'm like, I'm at a certain point in a scene now where I'm not sure where to go, and I dreamt last night. Oh, it's so interesting how
they tell
how ideas come.
They tell you.
I mean, they tell you. They do. They tell you, and they don't always go in the direction you intended.
Oh,
and
no.
People ask me, well, did you do an outline? And then no, I knew. The issues I wanted to get into and sort of how I wanted to end up, but it just kind of took on a life of its own, and I love it. I don't know if anyone else will, but I love it.
I will love it. I love that you're doing it. It's like welcome to my world. You can do all the outlines, all the outlines you want, and then the characters revise it. I mean, because once they're alive in the brain, and especially in the subconscious, they say, "Oh no, I would not do that. I'm doing this," and you better listen. Oh, congratulations, my dear. So
thank you, honey.
I want to pick your brain also. The Oscars are coming up, and I know that each year you take this very seriously as a member of the Academy, and you watch all of the screeners that get sent you. It's amazing. Yeah. So do you have any...
Positively Calvinistic.
What are your thoughts?
Positively Calvinistic about it all. Yes, I see everything just about. I'm upset that the Academy ignored The Butler, because I thought that... I thought it was a really good film, and I thought that Forrest Whitaker gave one of the year's best performances, and I think Oprah Winfrey's performance remains. I think she still gave the best supporting actress performance.
It was wonderful, and Jane Fonda was not chopped liver either.
Well, in my 30 seconds on the screen as Nancy Reagan, but it was a lot of fun. But anyway, it wasn't up for anything, so... I know that it's not politically correct to say this. I happen to love The Wolf of Wall Street. I did not view it as glamorizing the lifestyle. I saw it as a cautionary tale.
I haven't seen it.
And I think that Leonardo gave the performance of his life. I think it's just an incredibly muscular, fantastic performance, and I'm going to vote for him.
And it's Scorsese.
And I'm going to vote for Cate Blanchett. Huh?
It's Scorsese, after all. I mean, it can't be bad. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
but
it's wild and woolly. It takes you on a wild and woolly ride, and it was very, very, very entertaining. And like, I can't say the word on screen on the radio, but don't put your money with the heifer. Don't trust those guys. It was great, but I will. I'm for film though. I'm going to vote for 12 Years a Slave. Which I thought was an astonishing film. Mm-hmm. And I haven't yet decided for director if I'm going to vote for Steve McQueen, who directed 12 Years a Slave, or the director of Gravity, which I thought was very, very unusual.
Which I also haven't
seen.
What an
astonishing film.
I have a lot to catch up.
I'm hopeless. You sure do. I'm gonna, in spite of Woody Allen, I would never be in a film of Woody Allen's, but I'm gonna vote for Cate Blanchett because I thought her performance was staggeringly wonderful. I saw her on stage as Blanche Dubois when she was over at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, directed by Liv Ullmann, and it was one of the great female performances I've ever seen.
She's a remarkable actor.
Seen a lot, and she brought a lot of Blanche to this character. I don't think it was Woody, it was her. Woody doesn't direct, from what I'm told, in terms of performance. So it was her that brought that to the screen, and I think she deserves the award, although I thought that Sandra Bullock was also extraordinary.
What about Judi Dench and
I love Philomena.
Yeah. I mean,
I love Philomena. I just think that
anything Judi Dench does, I would follow her anywhere.
Yes, I kneel before her. But in terms of complexity and layering, I think Kate's performance was way out ahead. I really do. And I hate, I wish that I could vote for Judi. because she's a great actress and she deserves to win one of these days.
Well, I haven't seen I adore Blanchett, but I haven't seen the film because it's a Woody film. Just recently, Kathy was on the show, Najimy, and we were comparing notes about how much as we might like to, we can't handle Woody's films anymore. We just can't, watch them. So,
right. Well, I'd never be in one, but because of Kate, I saw this.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
And what about you yourself? The Newsroom is going to have a third season, which gladdens my heart.
Yes. I hope he kicks it out of the park. Yes.
Oh, it will. When does that season start airing?
I don't know when it's going to air. We start shooting, I think, in April. And I've run into so many people who say they renew their subscription to HBO in order to see Newsroom, and when the Newsroom season ends, they let their subscription lapse, and then they renew again. And I just wish, there's so many people who want it to keep going. I was just in Australia, and I tell you, people there are addicted to Newsroom. Everybody says, "Oh, we watch it twice," which of course it's so dense you sort of need to watch it twice.
Yes, indeed. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. He's a wonderful writer. Did you read the thing that he said about the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman? Sorkin.
Tell me.
It was just brilliant. It was a short obituary, and he said that he hadn't known him well, but they met at the table read for Charlie Wilson's War, which Sorkin had done the screenplay for, and became friends, and they would go out and sneak cigarettes at various breaks and talk about their addictions. Both of them were clean and sober at the time. And that Hoffman had said to Sorkin at one point, because we're well known, if one of us ever does die of an overdose, at least it will save 10 other lives, because it'll get press and scare the hell out of addicts. So he wound up this short tribute by saying at least he saved 10 other lives. But he said this other interesting thing. He said, let's stop saying he died of a heroin overdose. He died of heroin. And it was a short thing, but it was written in the Sorkin style, and it left you breathless, just with its elegance and beauty. Yeah. So I'm very glad that the Newsroom is coming back and that you're in it. And so, my God, so we have to watch out in the next few weeks for the teen book, Being a Teen, and then eventually for the novel, which we'll hear more about later. And in the meanwhile,
and there's a few other things that I can't tell you about that are pretty exciting.
Well, you have
that will be coming along, and I'm in town now workshopping. Events for his new play called OPC, which stands for Obsessive Political Correctness. Zoe Kazan, Elia Kazan's granddaughter, is playing my daughter, and she's playing the person who's been diagnosed as having OPC. And it's so funny. It's just wonderful.
Tell people what workshopping involves.
Well, this is new to me. I've done readings, one-time readings, but workshopping means you have a cast of people that the writer and director have chosen to sit around the table and read the play and work on it, in this case for 5 days, so that the playwright can see what she's got and what works and what doesn't work and what needs to be changed. And at the very end, like on Friday, people who could potentially put money into a production come and see it.
How terrific.
And then I go home.
Okay, where it's warm.
Where it's warm, and where one or more of the actors that I've just mentioned will soon win an Oscar.
This is true, and where you'll get back to work on the novel.
I come home from the workshop and I work on it right here.
Okay.
If I have 15 minutes, I sit down and work on it.
Wow. Okay, well, that is something that I can do with nonfiction, but I can't do with fiction or poetry. I sort of enter a zone, and then I get...
Well, it's probably because you're a real writer.
No. It's just that I get very cranky then if I get disturbed from my zone. Anyway,
well, I'm always cranky anyway.
You are not. You're a sunny personality. Whatever they say. I love you dearly. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you
on Women's Media Center Live, and good luck with every one of the projects that you're doing, which you don't need, but I send it anyway. Love you.
Thank you. I love you. Bye.
We have to pause one more time for another break here at Women's Media Center Live, where I am, still Robin Morgan. We'll be back in just a moment with Fighting Words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio.
And welcome back again, just in time for Fighting Words. Recently, I went to a dinner party where there were mostly filmmakers around the table, and we got to talking about which films to each of us were the most formative and influential in our youth. And I came up with two that were paired in my memory, and a third that stood alone. The two that were paired were The Red Shoes and A Star is Born. The Red Shoes is a wonderful, lush, technicolor, gorgeous ballet movie. Not only ballet, but a whole romantic plot that goes with it, with a great score by Brian Easdale, with Anton Volbrook and Moira Shearer and Leonid Massine and some great ballet, real people. And it's a classic The Personal is Political movie, because she is a ballerina and having to choose between her art and a husband who doesn't want her to do her art. He himself wants to be the only artist in the family. And spoiler alert, it winds up with her jumping off a parapet, a balcony. A Star is Born, the version that I particularly remember is the James Mason, Judy Garland version. Goes in the other direction, of course. Her career is on the ascendant, his is descending, and it winds up their love with him walking into the ocean. The message was to a young woman artist in the late 50s, this is what you have to face. Either you have your career or you have a relationship, but you can't have both because somebody will end up croaking. It had a deep effect, and I did marry an artist, another poet, and I spent 20 years getting some good poetry out of the relationship, lots of good times, some wretched times, and a wonderful child, and have been happily divorced for now longer than I was married. But fortunately, neither of us wound up killing ourselves. The message, however, was very powerful to women in the 50s and early 60s, and probably still is. The third film, which stood alone, was The Battle of Algiers by Gillo Pontecorvo, and it was about the underground in Algeria fighting the French at the end of their colonization. It's an extraordinary film, and it came out around the time when the left in this country was beginning to turn violent, having exhausted, so it was felt, peaceful protest. And you had the weather people, and you had the left turning violent with a kind of thrill that I talk about and wrote about a lot in The Demon Lover, a sexual erotization of violence, a delight in violence. Battle of Algiers went the other direction. In particular, there was a woman character, an Algerian woman, the widow of a martyr, who is pressured by his colleagues to bring a bomb to a public restaurant. And we've seen her in earlier scenes playing with her exquisite little boy, a child, a toddler. In she goes, she's carrying the bomb, and the place is filled with Europeans, and she exchanges glances with a woman about her age who has a child about the same age as her child. And what is exchanged between those women's smiles breaks the heart. And then as she realizes that if she leaves the bomb, they will be killed, the emotions that play through her face sear the brain. Spoiler alert, she does walk out, and she does leave the satchel, and the place explodes behind her. But what that taught me was, don't joy in violence, even if you find that you're forced to commit it. The ambivalence and the ethics of grieving over what you're doing is more important than what you're doing. Movies can teach you a lot. The politics of movies can teach you a lot. And that's it for this week. You've been listening to us on CBS Radio, WJFK, 1580 AM, or visiting us at WMCLive.com. Be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook, Twitter, and at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream us, download us, and subscribe to us, the show's podcast. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton. Senior Producer, Crystal Williams Chancellor. And our founding sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan. Thanks for being with us. Join us next week when we will celebrate International Women's Day and Women's History Month with some wonderful global feminist surprise guests. As we get nearer to March 8th, check us out on Facebook and Twitter for announcements of those surprise guests. Only here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 CBS Radio and WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.